From Houston to the small town of Esbjerg in Denmark, the Chinese regime has its eyes on Chinese nationals and foreigners around the world, people it hopes to influence into furthering Beijing's interests. Recently, the Epoch Times obtained a leaked government document that disclosed a list revealing that the Chinese regime seeks to cultivate talent in a wide breadth of sectors and countries. For decades, Beijing has maintained such talent recruitment programs such as the widely scrutinized Thousand Talents Plan, which lures overseas Chinese and foreign experts into working in China's science and tech sectors to help fulfill its ambition of turning China into a high-tech manufacturing powerhouse. The internal list offers a glimpse into the scale of Beijing's influence operations and also reveals that they stretch across diverse fields. Another set of documents revealed that amid the COVID-19 pandemic, authorities have begun tracking expatriates living in China and monitoring their health status. A third set exposed how authorities keep a tight leash on citizens who travel abroad. The documents were all issued by the Foreign Affairs Office of the Municipal Government of Daqing, a city with a population of about 2.7 million as of the end of 2019. It's located in northern China's Heilongjiang province. In a 2019 document, Daqing's Foreign Affairs Office stated that it would start an initiative called the 100 Overseas Talent Cultivation Plan. The central government and many local governments in China have such talent recruitment programs. A 2019 report by the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission estimated that there were hundreds of such programs at the local government level. Though the office didn't explain how it would carry out its plan, nor its specific goals, it listed 129 overseas individuals it would like to recruit. Among them were at least 70 who weren't ethnically Chinese, based on having a non-Chinese name. The document contained only the first names for some of these individuals, but each entry stated their current or former job positions, their career fields, as well as their contact information. The targeted people span the globe: New Zealand, United Kingdom, Pakistan, Spain, Ghana, Malaysia, and South Africa among them, and work in a variety of fields: staff in the tourism industry, professors at universities, CEOs and other business executives, chemistry specialists, people working in international trade and business, manager of a waste treatment plant, and so forth. The list also included several former politicians, including 2 former mayors of the Australian city of Perth, a former mayor of the Canadian city of St. John, Naheed Nenshi, the current mayor of Calgary, and Jesper Frost Rasmussen, the current mayor of Esbjerg, Denmark. The latter two didn't immediately respond to request for comment. Officials in the local governments of Houston, Tokyo, and Calgary, Canada, were also targeted in positions such as high-level policy consultant and executive official. Chinese individuals who were officials at the Japan-based firms Mitsubishi Corporation and Mitsubishi Chemical, as well as a Chinese manager of a Hawaii travel agency, were also on the list. A 2020 action plan issued by the Daqing office stated that the government would focus on establishing ties with businesses in Japan and South Korea. During the COVID-19 pandemic, officials also monitored foreigners in Daqing. In one document dated February 29th, the Daqing office kept a record of over 180 foreigners in the city, including exchange students, teachers, and foreign experts. These expats came from countries such as the United States, Canada, Chad, Morocco, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Taiwan, Sweden, the UK, and Australia. It stated that local health officials were monitoring their health status due to the pandemic and showed their detailed personal information such as passport numbers, birthdays, and current residential addresses in China. Another document dated April 9th is a daily work report, which updated the number of foreigners who were either working or studying in Daqing. One section detailed whether foreigners who recently arrived in Daqing were under quarantine. Another document warned that those Chinese officials who travel overseas on business trips were at risk of having their political ideologies changed. The Daqing office set out specific guidelines for these people before they leave and after they return to China. The document stated that before embarking on their overseas trips, they're to sign a pre-departure letter and undergo training given by the Daqing State Secrecy Bureau. Daqing State Security Bureau would also provide education lessons to these people before and after their overseas business trips. While the leaked document didn't explain exactly what the pre-departure letter stipulates, Chinese universities also require their teachers to sign such documents before going on business trips overseas. Changzhou College of Information Technology, which is located in coastal China's Jiangsu province, requires its teachers to sign a letter. This letter required that they not be interviewed by foreign journalists unless with approval from the leader organizing their trip, that they not leave the group without permission to see friends or family members living abroad, and that they not watch any activities organized by members of Falun Gong, a spiritual practice that's been severely persecuted by the Chinese regime since 1999.
Experts say that Japan, India, and Australia are planning a new global supply network and are working out an initiative called the Supply Chain Resilience Initiative to reduce dependency on China. They say the initiative is a result of the emerging geopolitics in the post-coronavirus world. Satoru Nagao, a visiting fellow at Hudson Institute and an expert on India-US-Japan security cooperation, told the Epoch Times in an email, this cooperation is well related to current U.S. policy toward China. Washington has an interest in preventing Beijing from gaining the wealth it needs to rapidly modernize its military. Japan Times reported that while the talks on the SCRI are currently at the working level, Japan seeks to bring them to a higher level at some point. Meanwhile, the Japanese government is subsidizing some of its companies with reliance on the Chinese supply chain to shift or expand in Japan or Southeast Asian countries. Currently, about 87 firms are participants. Pratik Dattani, an advisor to the London-based think tank Bridge India and managing director of Economic Policy Group, told the Epoch Times that the SCRI is a bold policy announcement, but the global community still needs to develop an operational clarity about it. Dattani, the former UK head of the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry, said, India has traditionally prided itself on its non-alignment, but this bold move marks a shift away. On the other hand, the three countries have developed closer relationships in maritime security through the Quad, so this could be seen as a natural evolution of the policy into the economic arena. The Quad refers to a strategic forum comprising the United States, Australia, India, and Japan. While the pandemic raised serious questions about China's credibility as a supplier, that's not the only factor leading to SCRI. Experts say that the worsening trade and diplomatic relationships of each of these countries with China are also a concern. Nagao said China's influence around the world is a result of its wealth and its loans to small countries that are leading them to debt. He said, countries with significant Chinese investment and debt are also hesitant to criticize Beijing, even when it violates international rules. For this reason, the United States will use trade wars, economic sanctions, or other means in an attempt to weaken China economically. How should Japan, India, and Australia respond? They should not be economically dependent on China. In the long run, they must reduce their economic dependence to avoid becoming passengers on a sinking ship. Therefore, it is unavoidable. Dattani said that Chinese leader Xi Jinping this year has made some strategic blunders in a border conflict with India in Galwan, as well as in Hong Kong and elsewhere because of aggressive actions. He added, at a time when humility and global cooperation would have better achieved China's foreign policy objectives, it turns sentiment among some of the largest economies in the world quickly sour. Japan, India, and Australia have already started to reduce their dependence on China, although experts say that shifting the entire supply chain's order from China to elsewhere is no easy matter. Nagao said, for Japan, China is not a top trading partner, but a big one. The U.S. is nearly 20% of the total Japanese exports and the top, but China is 19% and second. For India, the situation is similar. In 2018, the U.S. first surpassed China to become India's top trading partner. But from 2013 to 2017, China was top and is still a big trading partner. For Australia, the situation is very serious. China is top and dominates 30 to 40% of the total. Japan is second for Australia, but one-third of China. Bibhu Prasad Rotre, an Indian geopolitical analyst and the director of the Goa-based think tank Mantraya, told the Epoch Times that it can't happen in the short term. And to make it happen, investors will have to be attracted to the participating countries, especially India. New Delhi's record in this regard has not been especially promising. Tax laws, absence of reforms, lack of infrastructure, etc., has made investors look for other destinations, Roadtrace said in a written message. All those will have drastically changed for such an objective to be realized. On September 3rd, during the virtual meeting of the U.S.-India Strategic Partnership Forum, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi said that the cost of supply networks shouldn't be the only factor in an indirect dig at the Chinese supply chains. Modi said they should also be based on trust along with affordability. Companies are also now looking for reliability and policy stability. India has all of these qualities. In April 2020, Japan earmarked $2.2 billion of its record economic stimulus package to help local manufacturers shift production out of China. And indeed, many Japanese companies have relocated their Chinese factories to Southeast Asia or South Asia. Nagao said, adding that India also changed its rules in April, making it mandatory for foreign direct investments from countries it shares a land border with to seek its prior approval. As a result, the number of Japanese citizens living in China is decreasing and has gone from 150,399 in 2012 to 120,076 in 2018. The number of Japanese living in the United States, on the other hand, has increased from 410,973 in 2012 to 446,925 in 2018. For Dattani, the goal of the policy isn't to build a supply chain overnight, but to push back against Chinese aggression. He said, the reality, however, is that China is India's largest trading partner. To simply switch to other countries is not feasible. The announcement should nudge China to recalibrate some of its less benign policy decisions of recent times in order to restore normalcy in its international relations. Dattani says that the announcement is a coping mechanism for the countries involved, as they feel threatened by China and find it in their best interest to come together. Meanwhile, Nagao said economic development in the Indo-Pacific will face serious damage if this global supply chain alternative to the Chinese supply chain doesn't work. Nagao said, but at the same time, Japan-India-Australia cooperation is important, but merely one of the efforts. There are other efforts too, and the COVID-19 crisis stopped or slowed down the economy itself. This is the time to rethink the whole structure of the economy and supply chain. Roadtrace suggests that the efforts will seriously challenge Beijing's monopoly over the global supply chain and threaten its dominance. He said, if pushed to its logical conclusion, the move can have serious implications for its economy. However, China will certainly unveil its own policies to counter this. He added that Japan, India, and Australia can't base their cooperation only on their anti-Chinaism and will need to expand their partnership into other realms that would need tough choices. Dattani said any true partnership would need a genuine people-to-people exchange, so policy and operational clarity would be needed, especially as the Japanese political climate is in a state of flux. Without this, it is window dressing.
Footage of two officers tackling a 12-year-old girl to the ground on a Hong Kong street over the weekend has ignited a fresh outpouring of anger amid ongoing criticisms of police violence. Video shared widely on social media showed police kettling a group of people on a sidewalk in the district of Mongkok. The girl, who was in the crowd, then started to run away, shouting, "Stand still." An officer chased her as another tackled her to the ground. A third then joined to restrain her. The girl, later identified by local media as Pamela, received a fine along with her 20-year-old brother Stephen and another passerby for violating a social distancing rule that bans public gatherings of more than 2 people. The arrest came amid large protests on September 6th against the government's decision to postpone the election for the city's legislature, which critics said was an attempt to forestall a bruising defeat to pro-democracy parties. Nearly 300 people were arrested, mostly at protest sites in the neighborhoods of Ya Mai Tai and Mongkok. According to local media, Pamela was treated for scratches and some bruises on her elbow, while her brother sustained light injuries on his leg. Defending their actions, the police in a statement hours later said that they had intercepted the girl and others for a stop and search to break up pro-democracy protests nearby. The statement read, "During the interaction, she suddenly ran away in a suspicious manner. Officers therefore chased and subdued her with use of minimum necessary force." Since mass pro-democracy protests erupted in the city last June, Hong Kong police have come under growing criticism over excessive use of force in handling protesters. Incidents last year include alleged sexual assault of female students, indiscriminately pepper spraying and beating train passengers, and a 2-week-long siege of college campuses. The national security law, imposed by Beijing on the city and took effect in July, further empowered the police to make arrests based on broadly defined charges of secession, subversion, collusion with foreign forces, and terrorism, each with a penalty of up to life in prison. But according to her mother, Miss Ho, Pamela was not involved in the protest and was merely buying art supplies. She told Hong Kong media that she had parted with the two siblings to buy groceries, planning to meet a short while afterwards. Pamela told iCable News, "I was really afraid. I couldn't keep calm and started to run," while her brother said they would not pay the fine and intend to lodge a complaint. Stephen, who was apprehended when trying to shield his sister, further told Apple Daily that the charge was unreasonable, given that they didn't know the passerby who was fined with them. Miss Ho told Apple Daily that Stephen's swelling on his ankle has worsened since September 6th. She added that they are consulting a lawyer about suing the police. She said, "I know that at this time, complaints are useless, but we have to leave a record." On September 8th, the city's leader, Carrie Lam, told reporters that it would not be right for the chief executive to give an opinion on the actual operation on the ground. She said, "One has to look at the actual circumstances when assessing the police activities," and claimed that every incident and every complaint in terms of the actions taken by law enforcement agencies will be fully investigated. The Boys and Girls Clubs Association of Hong Kong, a local charity organization, called for authorities to conduct a fair and transparent investigation, adding that when children are present, law enforcement should consider the surrounding environment in their operations and protect children's rights to the best of their ability. A few orthopedists who asked to remain anonymous also said that it was lucky the girl only suffered some bruises. The fact that the police officer had used his body weight to tackle her and that her head had landed on the ground first could have resulted in more serious injuries, they told Apple Daily. One doctor said her ribs could have been fractured. It was very, very fortunate that she only got some scratches.
On September 8th, the Chinese regime held a ceremony honoring medical experts who contributed to controlling the virus. Communist leader Xi Jinping claimed his control over the virus proves what he calls the incomparably strong leadership of the Communist Party. But Chinese netizens noticed one name was missing among the honored. Dr. Li Wenliang, the whistleblower from Wuhan, tried to alert the public to the infectious virus as early as December. He was summoned by Chinese police for what they deemed spreading rumors online and later died from the virus. Li's Weibo account has since become China's virtual wailing wall or memorial wall with over 1 million comments. One comment questioned, "Why isn't there a badge of honor for him?" Some said, "In my heart, I don't care about those being honored. Those people can never compare to you." Another wrote, "I'm so sad. That badge doesn't deserve you. You will always live in our hearts." Yet another commented, "The police letter of reprimand is the real badge of honor." There are also some who questioned the lack of authorities' reflection. One of them wrote, "Who arrested Li Wenliang and forced him to sign a letter of reprimand? Who prohibited the news from being published? When they honor people, I think we also need a ceremony for reflection. Every time there's a major disaster, we always hold a ceremony of honor, but never reflection. Aren't there man-made factors in this disaster?" One person who was honored by Xi is Chinese military scientist Chen Wei. The People's Liberation Army, China's military general, has told state media that the vaccine she's developing can fight all mutations of the virus. She also claims her team can quickly produce vaccines to cope with the virus's future mutations, calling it as easy as developing software patches and updates. But some think the statement is too far-fetched.
So it probably can work most of the time for different mutations, but you cannot guarantee that it will work for all mutations. So I think that's definitely an exaggerated statement.
The former microbiologist said even for influenza vaccines, every year the CDC has to screen so many different strains and choose an ideal seed strain for the next season's vaccine.
The process of selecting a seed strain is quite challenging, and also the vaccine company need to remake all these vaccine products. So it's not simple like a software upgrade.
Especially for the CCP virus, a new and quickly mutating virus that scientists still don't fully understand. Dr. Lin said China has lost global standing amid the pandemic. That's due to its cover-up of the virus, and later its reported buying up and hoarding of donated masks and medical gear, which were later sold for profit. Now, he suggests the regime may again try to win back its international reputation, this time with vaccines.
China is also very aggressive, trying to make it a political advantage to have a vaccine first. So they have tried to skip many other steps and accelerate the process in the vaccine research, vaccine production. The large scales of vaccine productions really demands very high technology in the purities of these vaccine products. Many of the adjuvants, many of these stabilizing agents that can cause also additional side effects. So that's why large-scale vaccine production is a huge challenge for China. The whole world need to be very cautious. Whoever produced the vaccine first does not mean who produced the best vaccine.
He suggested people wait for more vaccine companies' results from different Phase 3 clinical trials, then evaluate and cross-compare the different products. The Chinese military general said her team is preparing for mass vaccination at a low price as soon as Phase 3 clinical trial results are released.